All right, now this better be good, making you guys wait. This is for all the hackers out there. I'm going to go into presentation mode. When I started doing email, I was always told by people, don't do your own email. And in those days it was open relay. And that was wicked scary because people would say like, man, you run your own mail server, you're going to start pumping out spam and CSAM. You're doomed. Do not do it. So, of course, I was terrified, but that was the right approach. But of course, I did it anyway. And it's because of Debian, and Debian, I just used their default setup. And of course, nothing works. So you hack your way into understanding how Exim works. And that's been basically my life. But there are better tools now, amazingly enough. And yeah, hopefully for all those other people out there who are similar to me, or probably a lot smarter than me, hopefully this will have some good info for you. So, the obligatory scare tactics. This is a really pretty serious thing. Data in emails is one of the largest data sources in the world. Incredibly personalized. It's PII, personally identifiable information, exceptionally valuable. And this really needs to be under your own control. I know most of you in this room know this, but I really think it's important. I want to make the connection between self-sovereignty and FOSS. You're not going to really get sovereign unless you're doing it with free software, and you know what the code is doing, and you have possession of all your data, etc. And I like to believe that we can do that now. Before we get there, these are really serious. This is no joking around. The USA Cloud Act is a real mess. It's terrifying. The United States is a mess right now. And China also has very tough laws. Anything with Chinese jurisdiction will go to the government of China. The same is true with the United States. It's going to happen. They ignore cookie rules. They ignore GDPR requests. Just rest assured that you're in deep trouble if you're using their services. This is scariest of all. If you don't know, the International Criminal Court was sanctioned by the United States because they claimed, or the court had an arrest warrant for the Prime Minister of Israel for war crimes. The United States sanctioned the court, forcing Microsoft to cut off email access to the International Criminal Court. So this is pretty much life or death for a lot of people. You pretty much don't have much freedoms, nor are your rights protected if you don't have rule of law. And you don't have rule of law if the court cannot act under its assigned mandate. It's just that simple. So, how can we do this? Well, we can start bringing all that data in-house. At the very least, if you're a corporation, you should do this. If you're an individual, you can do this. And one of the things that the EU is helping to make possible is trying to set some terms on sovereignty. This is relatively new. This has come out this fall. It's trying to define a way to create sovereignty so that we can all understand in the same way. What does it really mean? There's a pretty straightforward, simple PDF out there that the EU has published. But these are really good guidelines, I think, for a start. FOSS has always been, free software, the free software movement has always leaned in this direction anyway, but it's great to have this stuff spelled out. Also, to some degree, identifies the areas where proprietary software solutions are likely to fail. This one is probably going to be, say, an enforcement regime. It's not right now, but like the CRA, it could be used as such. So, you know, it's also kind of useful as a rule of thumb for your own organization or for your own personal email. Jurisdictional sovereignty obviously is hugely important. If you're in the right jurisdiction, you get GDPR for free, and you can also be outside of the Cloud Act and Chinese PIPL. But you really want to strive for all the way. Obviously, data sovereignty is really important, given how valuable data is. You want to also have backups, and then you probably want to have complete digital sovereignty, so that you can do things like encrypt and do backups, etc., etc. Email is a little different than, say, some of the other protocols. The W3C handles a lot of the web stuff, but IETF is where email has been working on, or where email has been worked on. So I recommend some of these if you wanted to dive into those. And it too is similar to the W3C. The W3C has a lot of influence from various corporations because the browsers have such a huge stake in how HTTP, the protocol works, and how HTML is written. IETF is not as dominated by that, which is both good and bad. It's bad in the sense that proprietary protocols can come up through various vendors. And that's happened with, say, Calendar, iCal, etc. Microsoft also has something called ActiveSync, which I think there are even patents on. So that's a very murky area, and something that probably can't be replaced until we get rid of software patents entirely. But yeah, in this area, a great deal of the formal protocols for email have been written. And if you want to dig into that, the IETF is a good place to go. It's pretty collaborative. It's a little bit different from the W3C. So it's a great place to go if you're interested. As you can see, the JMAP spec, which is JSON Mail Access Protocol, is being done there. And I think in general, it's a lot less corporate. It's a lot more friendly to free software hackers. These are the differentiators kind of between, or one of them. The protocols are a little bit different between older email. I don't know, maybe some of you run Postfix or XM. These are mail transfer agents. They speak SMTP. SMTP is Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, and it is what it says. It's simple. You can get MTA's mail transfer agents that speak SMTP over port 25, has to be over port 25. And you can have a rock solid implementation. It's almost always just text, which is great. I mean, a lot of people like that, although most people in the world want HTML nowadays. And it's very straightforward. You have to do everything yourself. It's a lot of bolting on. And one of the things that got bolting on was IMAP, which is Internet Mail Access Protocol. So IMAP allows you to have, say, multiple clients. You can have MUT in your terminal at work, and then at home you can have Thunderbird, and you're going to see your inbox in the same state as when you left it. That's very useful. That's pretty cool. Then, along the way, as email became industrialized and built at scale by companies like Gmail and Microsoft, they had a need, and the need is quite simple: authentication as well as reduction of spam. And so under that guise, they've developed a variety of technologies. Part of the problem with email is that you can spoof the envelope. And this leads to some devastating consequences. Firstly, spam. But secondly, nowadays, phishing. And that's really, really tricky to solve. However, DKIM, domain keys implementations, sender policy framework, which is SPF, and DMARC help a little bit with this. They bring some ideas from private key infrastructure and things like that. But yeah, again, these are proprietary extensions, and you generally have to bolt them onto your SMTP server. And so what we really have is a whole set of protocols that have to work together. I was speaking with my pal Oscar, and he was saying, yeah, I run my own email server at home, and then, things go well, but then along comes things like DKIM. And DKIM's kind of a pain in the ass, because you're not Google, and you don't really need to sign all that stuff, but if you have to deliver email to somebody who's using Gmail, then you have to have DKIM. You have to have these things. So, delivery at scale, or delivery into the corporate email ecosystem requires these things, even if emailing your hacker friends doesn't. And it's growing collaboration. So if you want to share files, or if you want to have access to files, you can use WebDAV. And there's CalDAV for calendars and CardDAV for contacts. Now, all of these are, again, just bolted on, but at least they're open standards. And they have proper RFCs. And they're fairly easy to understand. But this is very much what email looks like today. As I say, it is fairly challenging, especially if you're going to be, the email guru at your organization. As you can see, some of the problems here are its ancientness, its oldness. It works pretty well for being such a simple protocol, and one of the reasons why it works is because it's simple. Again, these things all get placed on top, which, really makes it challenging. Wow. IMAP, as mentioned before, it's actually pretty fantastic. It's not fast, and we're moving to a mobile-first world, so it's really a bad fit for a lot of phones. It doesn't work hand in hand with distributed authoring and versioning, which is DAV, and then each vendor does their own thing. We've all seen this before. But yeah, IMAP is actually really good. SMTP is really good. These things are very good. As anybody who's done this before knows that as soon as you set up your email server, because of the way email is created, you're going to get inundated. And that's a real challenge. Actually, one of the best tools out there is something called Spam Assassin. Maybe those of you who run it know this. Spam Assassin is old as well. It's been around as long as the MTAs almost. It takes a long time to develop a corpus to train it. It's Bayesian classification. So it was AI before AI was AI. But it does work really well. It's not easy to maintain. You can do it on a per user fashion, or you can build up a big database if you have a lot of users. It's a little arcane. It does a scoring system. My Spam Assassin might not work for you. And then, because it's so widely used, people will try and game it. And it's a cat and mouse game. Spam is always evolving, moving a little bit fast, and moving ahead of the Spam Assassin tools, things like that. There's a new tool out there called RSpam that I quite like, and I've found, even with my tuned Spam Assassin, RSpam catches more spam than Spam Assassin. However, there are other tools as well. DNS reputation matters a great deal. People create throwaway domains, churn out millions and millions of emails, and if you don't have a list of those bad DNS actors, you're going to get stuck with spam anyway. Even Gmail gets spam. So spam is a real problem. There's gray listing. There's something called tier gubbing, where you make the SMTP protocol stutter. That can work. Bayesian filtering is what Spam Assassin does, but I also like remote blacklists. They've been very good. There's a group called Spam House that will help you out there. And DKIM signing, so that you can have the authentication. Because if you put that little cryptographic signature in, at least you can check it. And if you put that, again, in DNS, is the way DKIM is supposed to work. You go up to the web and say, can this address send email? Yes, it can. And you can find, when people try and forge from that address that you've already checked, that pops up really quickly, and that's great to block. So, DKIM quite useful, even though it's a pain in the ass to set up. but I strongly recommend it if you decide to do it. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of stuff that's glomming onto email. Email still has an incredibly powerful draw. Even people who are like not chronically online might use email. So, it tends to accrete functionality as things happen. Files and blobs are one of the most common things. Again, authentication fragmentation. Boy, that makes life difficult. Because you have to log into your IMAP server to get your mail. But you may have a user on your Linux box that requires you to log in to send mail. So those are two different authentications. Then your files might have yet a third, which is one of the reasons why Gmail has been so successful. It consolidates authentication, and that allows people easy access to collaborate across systems and protocols. Very powerful. We don't really have that in the free software world yet, but it's coming. So, JMAP, enter JMAP. I remember talking to some folks about this and thinking, oh, big deal. It's just, another protocol. Yes, it uses JSON. That's great. Big deal. It is a big deal. One of the reasons is that it gets rid of a lot of the cruft that we've built up, a lot of the assembled experience we have. I mean, that feels bad if you're a Unixy geeky guy, because do one thing well and just do that, and maybe JMAP's going to be a little too big, or people worry that, okay, systemd is sort of taking over the entire OS, but I'm really used to sort of sys5 and it, and its simplicity. Well, the thing about JMAP is that I think will be really powerful is that instead of using SMTP, it's using HTTP. So you're going to find a whole group of developers who understand HTTP much more than they understand SMTP. So we're going to see a huge amount of development happen occur. Then it's incredibly fast. Plus, it already plugs into the authentication systems we have today. So it's showing real promise already, and there's already in the field, and it's not fully specified. It's ongoing as we speak. Fortunately, there are a lot of free software developers doing it. A lot of the work is done by a guy who is the CTO or CEO of Fastmail. And, he's just going with the spec, and one of the developers from Stalwart, which is a very large MTA that's popular now, you see mail flying back between them all the time. It's really a collaborative environment. So I'm very hopeful about these things. Also, the mobile-first design, that's going to be really powerful for a lot of people. There's server push, I just want to mention that. That's a big thing for Apple users. Apple uses a push protocol for mail, and it's very difficult for free software to get involved in that ecosystem because it's proprietary, of course. But it's quite possible that since we're switching protocols away from SMTP into JMAP, that even that kind of push protocol that Apple uses will fit into this. So, yeah, you can see you drop a lot of sequential round trips, which is, IMAP produces tons and tons of information. But that's the way we did it in the old days. Email was asynchronous. We didn't need these really fast protocols. Nowadays we do, and you can get that really quickly. So you get minimal data transfer. You get a single authorization across both your mail, your contacts, and calendar. That's super convenient. So yeah, I think this is pretty useful highlight. Getting to some good meaty stuff. There's also been a huge storage change on the back end. Email is just text until, of course, it isn't. Until it's also an attachment, and it's PDFs, and then it's HTML, and then it's just growing really large. And in typical mail clients, you store that in var mail spool. Well, that disk fills up pretty quickly. So the mbox failed to really serve us particularly well. We moved to MailDeer, but that's still a lot of text, a lot of old protocols. People started moving to databases. You can do a lot more with that. You can start to compress things. You can squeeze stuff down. Nowadays, a lot of people move to object storage because it's also web addressable. So you can have your attachments anywhere, and you can store your objects, your blobs, thank you, your blobs somewhere else. In fact, in one mail server that I'm using, I put that in the cloud, but then I put, for example, a lot of the data access in an S3, a GPL-v3 implementation called Garage. It's from France, it's really cool. All that data, you connect that, say, through WireGuard, so you have an encrypted data pipe from the cloud onto a local machine. And because email is asynchronous, and you're just storing these blobs encrypted, it doesn't really slow down the mail server at all. That's an incredibly powerful way. So, this is really good stuff. I mean, it's difficult for me because I much prefer to use plain text, you know? I mean, that's how I prepare for stuff, that's just the way my mind works. But I understand why the newer databases are useful. And I think in this case, this one's really good. Also, with JMap and new storage and these new protocols, we can scale. In fact, Google has 1.8 billion email clients or customers. They serve email for 1.8 billion people. There is work being done with Stalwart that can reach that scale, which is quite exciting. And it uses many of these underlying technologies, like S3 and JMap. But it also supports IMAP. So, there comes also configuration issues. If you're running email at scale, you probably want more than one process, so you're probably starting to talk about a cluster. Reading from disk on cluster becomes very tricky, so you want the cluster to have access to all the data. So, for example, in a lot of cloud-native settings, you have all your configuration within a simple directory, and it's part of the process. So you don't have it spread across NFS, disks, or what have you. Again, you want to look for a simple authentication. You do tend to have more statelessness. That's one of the benefits of, say, using the HTTP protocol. Avoid things like NFS and Samba. RocksDB, FoundationDB, and of course, Postgres. These are all great tools that you can use instead of storing on disk. And because we're moving into sort of these configuration paradigms, you're going to need and want to look inside. Fortunately, there's a lot of observability in cloud systems. And that's a good thing to have, and these things work pretty easily as well with our mail clients, which is also kind of new, or with the MTA, I should really say. I wanted to make a quick mention about Sequoia. Sequoia is an open PGP implementation done in Rust. It's obviously memory safe, free software, and Thunderbird now supports Sequoia keys. Sequoia is backwards compatible with GPG, and a lot of MTAs and mail clients support encryption. So if you want to update your keys into something stronger that may be quantum proof, I can recommend Sequoia PGP. A quick look at what exists today. These are as they say, the venerable workhorses. Exim is the default and Debian, but maybe there are more postfix implementations. These really replace the sendmail binary on your system that almost any Unix had automatically. There's also something called Qmail, which has a bounty if you find a bug. That might be fun. A gentleman named Bernstein, who's a cryptologist in the United States, wrote it. So you can use something like that. Here's one based entirely in JavaScript. I think we're going to see a lot more of this. I think it's going to be very interesting. Stalwart, as I've mentioned previously, I'm using that. I think it's fantastic. But if you prefer other ecosystems, there are other tools. This is not a complete coverage of everything, every MTA that's out there. At FallStem, there's a modern email track. There's been that for 25 and 26, so the last 2 years. So if you want to look on those websites, there's a number of mentions of a variety of clients as well as MTAs, and there's a lot happening out there. So there's a lot of options for you if you want to run locally. Webmail is a big thing too. IMAP. You know, you can use webmail with IMAP, but with JMAP, it's going to come out even faster and be very performant. There's a recent build of something called Bulwark, which is designed around Stalwart's APIs. Also on the command line is something called Eric. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm just confirming AR.
Okay, do you use it?
Yeah, love it.
People really love it. It's a fantastic terminal. Would you say it's a TUI, a terminal user interface?
Yeah.
It's written by the same fellow who does the open source Forge.
Very cool.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's built around Git workflow. So if you do a lot of Git mailing and stuff like that, Eric is fantastic for it. So it's really developer centric, and people love it. I don't use it because my fingers don't mutt, and Eric is a little different from mutt, if I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Whew. I haven't used Snappy Mail, but people talk about it a lot. Roundcube has been around for a long time. I think it's written in PHP, which makes me somewhat cautious. There are a lot of tools that use PHP, perfectly fine, but there can be some security issues with it, and it's not necessarily super fast. Yep. I did want to take a quick look at Bulwark. You know, here's a requisite screenshot from upstream. Very straightforward, surprisingly snappy for webmail. Again, you can log into this, and all it does is log into your SMTP server. You can use the same credentials, and you're off and running. It also has an interface for files, which is quite convenient. Because Stalwart supports FileDAV, CalDAV, and CardDAV. So yeah, these are just 2 tools that I've worked a fair amount with. There's another tool out there called Perugula, which is more of a desktop client. It's a little heavier, perhaps you might say, but it's incredibly powerful. And it allows you even to plug into something like Jitsi. So you can do everything from that interface. You can do video calls, etc., etc. Pretty nice. It was called Mustang before. I don't know if anybody's heard that, but I've tested it when it was Mustang. It was remarkably performant. Very powerful tool. Of course, the oldies and the goodies still work. Thunderbird, it works really well. It now supports encryption keys, as I mentioned, as well as automated discovery, Evolution, free software, fantastic tool, very corporate. If you are going to be using that, you probably want to look at other forms of collaboration, like Document. As everybody knows, Office EU has just come around. Dovecot and using Civ. It's not really quite a collaboration server. Dovecot is a very powerful IMAP server. Can do authentication as well. Civ is more of a mail filter. Obviously, there's Nextcloud. I don't know if you were here last year, but Nextcloud gave a great talk, and you can use all your MTAs. You can slot it right into Nextcloud. So there's a lot of opportunity for integration as well, which means that you can really cut your cloud hosting bills should you be interested. one of the big sticking points for getting somebody to use email is to sign up. It's really quite difficult to get your mail from an IMAP server. Auto configuration and automatic server discovery is really cool. I wish I had made this picture bigger, but you can see all I had to do in this case was to put my email address in. And then it took the last part of the email address, went out and found my SMTP as well as my IMAP login. And then all I had to do was approve that. A lot of the proprietary tools out there already can do this with their own proprietary protocols. This is getting standardized. So it's really kind of cool. Yeah, I do think that object storage, distributed backends, are here to stay. Key discovery is a really important thing. So nowadays, I think it's WKD. It's a key discovery protocol because the web of trust hasn't really worked very well in the sense of finding who to trust so that you can join the web of trust and have your key signed by somebody else. It's tended to stay, for example, I think the Debian community is the world's largest key-based web of trust. So it hasn't really spread to ordinary users. And PGP is tricky. Even the experts make mistakes, and God knows that. I know I have, and I know a lot of really talented security folks who have. So hopefully, key discovery, automatic key discovery might help us here. It doesn't solve all the problems, but it will solve some. DNS encryption and things like that, and DANE are going to be really key, I think. DNSSEC is also key. Message layer security, I think bringing forward secrecy will be incredibly powerful. We already see that in logging. I think the journal has forward secrecy. And of course using Rust and or Zig if you prefer. Yeah, all these things are being built into modern tools. And I think we have an opportunity to leapfrog proprietary implementations. Yep, some of the key ones, if you're interested to go out and get this going internally or do it yourself. Sort of more pointers for all the things that I think are worth following up on, but probably not. Yep, and these are the takeaways. Some of them are copied from a previous speaker. Like resistance is not futile. It's easier than ever. You're not going to run an open relay. You have the right and maybe even an obligation to protect yourself and to own your own data. Let's collaborate. There's no community, I feel, that collaborates better than the free software community. I've learned so much. I've been given so much. I mean, look at how I showed up with a USB stick. And this thing actually happened. It's fantastic. Yeah. So, this is the part of the talk where I mine data from these brilliant minds out here. So if anybody has any questions or statements, I'm all for it. Does anybody run mail in-house right now? Personally? Does anybody run it for your company? Oh.
Yeah, so I have a question, which I guess we maybe have all experience, and it's how do we deal with Microsoft?
Yeah. I think that a lot of the tools nowadays, newer tools, are compatible with Microsoft. For example, auto discovery is now, which is a proprietary Microsoft extension, is now part of the IETF. But what are you thinking exactly? Maybe that's not.
No, that's not quite what I meant. I meant mainly what they call nowadays outlets, so they're email servers, which they offer for like big companies, for governments, and
You mean Exchange, their Exchange server?
Not
Or do you mean
necessarily,
Outlook.com?
just whatever is hosted, whatever email is hosted at Microsoft, since they have this weird policy that if we have a bad neighbor in our /24 IP address space, they will just block the whole /24, and you will not be able to deliver email to Microsoft unless you go to very strange loops. They do not notify anyone. They say they have this SNDS thing where you are able to see the reputation of your IP, and it tells you everything is okay. You write to them, they tell you everything is okay. You write very angry email, and then they're like, oh yeah, we looked into it, we are applying litigation, it takes like 24 hours. So this is a mess. What do we do?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. Yeah. I've had that problem a little bit. My solution was only a workaround, and that is to contact people out of band and then tell them that they've got an email, and hopefully they can solve it internally. I mean, yeah. I don't know.
So I was wondering, sort of similar, but how is JMAP being adopted by the big companies, Microsoft, Google?
So far, not at all. And if it is, it's probably being done internally. But I can't imagine that they won't, because of the efficiency gains, which means much less CPU time, and which saves significant money. And data centers are expensive. So I think they will adopt it. But I haven't seen, of course I don't look at their tooling. I stick to free software. But yeah, I know that in the marketplace, if you're a company and you don't want to have an Exchange in-house, because you have to buy a license from Microsoft, and then you have to buy a license for Exchange, and then you have to pay per user. So if you want to use something like Outlook.com, it's a little bit cheaper. And I'm certain they're using, or they will use, JMAP there. But yeah, I have no greater insight than that. Outlook and Gmail dominate MTAs, so they dominate mail serving in the European Union.
Yeah, it's not a question, but I'm a member of an organization here in Gothenburg called FreePost, which is an email collective, so that you can become a member and you get access to our email infrastructure. And as a member, you also get a vote, so you can come to the meetings and you can decide how you want the infrastructure and the service to evolve, and if you need additional services and so on. Regardless if you have technical knowledge yourself, you can influence the service as well. And we would be glad to see other organizations of similar nature pop up. And feel free to contact us if you need help on how to start. And yeah, if you want to discuss.
Are you guys implementing JMAP, or is that something that everybody in the community can say, that's what we'd like to do?
Yeah, we would have to raise it on a yearly meeting,
Gotcha.
but we have looked into it, but not made any decisions yet.
Cool. So we go to, somebody goes to freepost.sc and just signs up.
Yeah.
.org.
Yeah.
Freepost.org
Yeah.
to join. Awesome. Thank you. Third. Oh, sorry. Excuse me.
It's okay. Thanks for mentioning Thunderbird more than once. I really appreciate it. And I just want to say that, yes, if you know, if you can contribute something to Thunderbird, please do. We really need it right now. And the second one is, thank you for the talk. Have you heard about something called SML, like structured email, which is something really nice? And they are looking for contributors as well. It's on the IETF. It's again JSON into various folders of means, but basically you can, when you visualize your email, and if there's like a structure in it, say booking for a hotel, or you can propose everything, it just visualizes this with actionable items. So you don't have to go click through a link, but it's like a workflow. So for example, if you both appear and you say, yes, I accept you directly from your email client, and it will go not anywhere else, but it just all interaction is going through that. So it's called SML, structured email, and as well they're looking for ideas because it's developing right now.
I've seen some of that sort of in action. I don't think that any of the free software MTAs or the clients support it yet, but I've seen things where you can, like, if you're getting from a mailing list, the structured email can pop up an unsubscribe button really easily.
I think Evolution supports that.
Oh, does it? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
and some others are working on that. Not to the miracles happen. So it's,
Fascinating.
yeah,
Thank you.
But if you can contribute. No.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, I'm Eric. I'm a stupid guy that just showed up for the Q&A. But as a community service, I'm asking them my questions if you haven't mentioned it. So I've been operating my own MTA since '99 something.
Ah, which one?
Zenmail, basically.
Zenmail.
Yeah.
Wow.
Since I started with Debian, because I had a lot of the guy that was supposed to do it in my kitchen and feeding with bits and cigarettes to get the initial configuration. Then I had to take it over myself, basically. Anyhow, the thing about what are the best community resources that could complement or replace MX Toolbox and stuff like that to get your reputation maintained, because it's a shifting target.
It is a shifting target.
In order to do that in a sane way without being confused with spams.
Yeah.
That's, to me, it's been a challenge over the years. So what's your experience and what's available that is a good way to do it?
Well, it depends on who you want to deliver to, but if you're going to deliver to Outlook or Gmail, you need DKIM, you need DMARC, and you need SBF.
Okay. Yes.
So maybe you have all those things already.
Sure.
Yeah. If you're looking for something to replace MX Toolbox, because I guess it is going away, right? Or it's
Well,
not.
it tries to give you a hard time on doing things.
Okay.
And if you have many domains, it's costly.
Yeah. There are two really good tools that I use. One checks SSL as well as email deliverability. And then there's another one from the British government, actually, that checks security and reputation. I don't have those names off the top of my head, I'm sorry to say.
If this is of general interest to the audience, then
yeah,
something you'd like to share it.
I will. I'll share it through foss-north. I'll quickly share my experience through the foss-north master company.
Because it's easy to self-host, but being able to exchange with everyone.
Absolutely. That's a big deal. I mean, if you can't do that, you're in trouble. And these tools, I've used MX Toolbox, so these tools are super important.
Yeah.
I agree, 100%. I feel bad, I should have put it in my talk, but there are two that I can definitely recommend, and I forgot about there.
So anything along the lines of how you ease, if you really want to do it hardcore and not leave your mail in anyone else's hands.
Right.
Anything you haven't mentioned
which you
you'd like
did.
to share, please put that in some
You bet.
show notes.
There's also a book out that somebody wrote, how to host your own email or how to run email on BSD or FreeBSD, which is incredibly comprehensive.
Michael, Lucas, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, correct.
Tremendous book, incredibly comprehensive. There might be tips there that I didn't get around to.
Okay.
It's a big subject,
Thank you.
but great question, as always. Sir.
Given that it's so difficult to self-host email, primarily just because you kind of have to beg Microsoft and Google to not blacklist your email address, your IP address, do you think that trying to modernize email itself is the right way, or, I mean, the alternative is to build some completely new, decentralized peer-to-peer communication system. Like, do you think it's worth putting all this engineering effort into trying to push email forward? Or just go to something new that Microsoft and Google don't own yet, and like we don't have to fight their ownership?
I do think it's worth that, because people are familiar with it, and that matters a great deal, because you're still serving an important community, you're serving users. You're serving, also, JMAP gives the possibility to do federation. So that's one way to get around their blocks. If you're, say, outside SMTP and IMAP protocols, the protocols that they rely on, you can bypass them entirely. So, and I think, yeah, I've forgotten the name of the library that allows, say, different federated resources to follow each other. But that's definitely coming to email as well. Yes, ActivityPub will work with JMAP. And I think in many ways that's the end goal, to have unified messaging so that you can decide who reads what and how you deliver what. So as long as you have sort of an identity out there, the protocols won't necessarily matter. And you can skip the big companies should you wish. But, the protocols that I mentioned previously, SMTP, IMAP, if you want to deliver to their servers, there's no getting around their requirements. They've exploited the weaknesses in IMAP and SMTP and the fundamental design flaws. And they've built themselves vendor lock-in. So, I mean, I agree with you 100% that maybe we should focus on other protocols, and I think ActivityPub might be one of those. But I definitely think that we can't give up email. We need to serve too many people. It's actually mission critical for a lot of companies. And
Similar question, but about should we keep working on email or should we try something new? But regarding signing and encryption, is fixing key discovery like you talked about earlier really all that's needed? Or that was a leading question.
Yeah.
I don't know, are we better off just trying something else altogether for signing and or encryption? How do you see this?
it's a really great question because one of the first things I did to, testing out for the modern email talk was set up end-to-end encryption in Thunderbird with Stalwart, because Stalwart has a place where you can log in and put up a key. So I built a new Sequoia key and started submitting it. Then I put in my client key so that Thunderbird could encrypt it, and then I went to Mutt and immediately locked myself out of all my emails. So I had encrypted emails just sitting there, that I can't read. So, yeah, encryption's, for me, it's super hard. And I know a lot of people who work with it, and they say it's super hard for them. So I don't know the answer to your question. I know you don't know it, that I don't know it. But I think WKD, key discovery will help. I think we need to make it less geeky. Email and encryption has been really geeky, really hard to use. I also think it might not be as necessary because now the moment the email hits the servers, you can encrypt it and encrypt it all the way through its chain of custody to the end user, which is pretty good. We didn't really have that before. It was all clear text. Moving off of cloud providers means that you can encrypt it locally on your server, which does provide some protection, at least to you. End-to-end encryption requires that the other end user is using it. And then when they unencrypt it, they take a screenshot, and so that remains unencrypted forever. So I honestly don't know, but I think there are some people who have a threat model that relies on encrypted email. So I think we need to work on that as well.
just wondering, how do you handle GDPR specifically, since you are storing a lot of personal information?
Great question. Absolutely great question. Well, with JMap, since it's just an account, you can just say, okay, give me all the account data from this account. All pops out. So email servers nowadays, if they're free software, they're built with GDPR in mind. And it's trivially easy. This is something I've tested on my own account, and it dumps blogs, the email, the text. So easy to handle.
Thank you.
Thank you.